La empresa SpaceX de Elon Musk está valorada ahora en 1,06 billones de euros tras su fusión con la empresa de inteligencia artificial xAI, lo que reduce la diferencia con su compañía automovilística Tesla y reestructura el equilibrio de poder dentro del imperio empresarial de Musk. Sobre el papel, Musk obtiene ahora más riqueza de la empresa de cohetes que del fabricante de coches eléctricos. El negocio principal del automóvil se ha visto presionado por el aumento de la competencia en China y Europa, así como por el fin de la desgravación fiscal federal para los vehículos eléctricos en Estados Unidos. A esto se suma la actividad política de Musk, que en los últimos días ha generado polémica tras insultar en redes sociales al presidente del gobierno español, Pedro Sánchez, al que calificó de tirano y traidor al pueblo de España, en respuesta a un anuncio sobre la regulación de las redes sociales. Por el contrario, SpaceX ocupa una posición dominante en sus mercados principales. La empresa es el principal proveedor de servicios de lanzamiento orbital con contratos multimillonarios de la NASA y del Departamento de Defensa de Estados Unidos.
The big question is whether an escalation in a all-out military conflict between the United States and Iran is becoming inevitable at this point, certainly in the context of the escalation that we saw last night when an Iranian drone, quote, approached aggressively a U.S. aircraft carrier in the Arabian Sea. The United States says it was, quote, able to shoot it down and that no staff or equipment was hurt in the process. This is also coming at a time in which the U.S. is also propping up an increasing its own military presence in the region. This could be interpreted in two ways. It's either a show of force from the U.S. to signal to Iran that they are ready to intervene militarily, or it could actually be the beginning of a military operation against Tehran. This is on the ground, but of course the diplomatic channels continue. There is a dual track at this point. A meeting between U.S. representatives and Tehran is still scheduled, as we understand, to take place later this week in Istanbul that could actually lead to de-escalation if this channel of dialogue is able to be established with Tehran. The U.S. could also decide this is now the time to do talks and really bargain now for a framework leading to a nuclear deal. Maria Tadeo, Euronews, reporting from Dubai.
Let's say that at world level, the world has changed. The WTO rules are totally disrupted. And even the globalization, I don't want to say is that, but it's different compared to a few years ago. So it's not only about Europe, it's about the trade dynamic at global level. And as even these countries, no country is immune if we look at this trade and geopolitical turmoil that we are experiencing. And this is why I think that it's a very good thing that now we are looking more and more as GCC countries and European countries in having more trade, economic and political relations. Because as Europeans, absolutely we don't want to replace our greatest and strongest partner is US in terms of political alliance and trade alliance.
This is the highest representation from Europe and European leaders in the history of the World Government Summit. And this reaffirms the importance of Europe as a partner of the UAE, as a partner of this region, and the way forward on building the successful partnerships of the past. We have the Prime Minister of Spain, the President of Switzerland, the President of Estonia. They all have came here to reposition the relationship at the forefront of their priorities with the UAE and with the wider region.
The world requires a place where, whether it's adversaries, whether it's different geographies, to at least have dialogue. Even at the height of the Cold War between the USSR and the United States, there was dialogue. And these dialogues happen in places like Switzerland, for example, right? And the UAE prides itself for being that, being a place where the world can convene, a place where the world can come and converse, and a place that is a safe haven for dialogue to push certain agendas forward. We've seen, for example, right now the progress that was done between Russia, the US, and Europe, and Ukraine on the peace talks. And the UAE is a great convener for that. I think if we're able to achieve peace, this is a great success story that came out of the UAE. We've also seen earlier as well the peace between Azerbaijan and Armenia. So all of these things are possible because the UAE does not choose sides. We try to be in the middle. We try to work with everyone. We try to stay true to our focus as a nation.
La última encuesta del Eurobarómetro realizada el otoño pasado ha tomado el pulso a lo que más preocupa a los europeos en el mundo actual. Sus dos mayores preocupaciones son las guerras activas cerca de las fronteras de la UE y la desinformación. La encuesta fue publicada el miércoles por el Parlamento Europeo. En lo que respecta a la seguridad, la mayoría de los europeos afirman estar muy preocupados por las guerras activas cerca de la UE, el terrorismo, las catástrofes naturales agravadas por el cambio climático y los ciberataques de países no pertenecientes a la UE.
What is striking is to see that it's across member states, so that maybe the Nordics or the Eastern countries were the first to flag those security and defense concerns in the past, and now it's very much generalized.
También expresaron una gran preocupación por la desinformación, el discurso de odio, los contenidos engañosos creados por inteligencia artificial, la protección de los datos en línea y las amenazas a la libertad de expresión.
We've seen for the last year a bit of attacks on multilateralism, on values, a rise of hate speech or disinformation online. We've seen AI tools more instrumentalized to seek to polarize or to distort a bit the information space. So those threats or those risks are probably very perceived by the citizens.
Los europeos quieren que el Parlamento dé prioridad a la lucha contra la inflación, seguida de la creación de empleo y la defensa. El 62% valora positivamente la pertenencia de su país a la UE, aunque la percepción que tiene el público de la Unión Europea se ha debilitado desde mayo de 2025.
Welcome to Europe Today.
Good morning.
El ministro de Asuntos Exteriores de Moldavia, Mihai Popșoi, ha declarado que confía en el compromiso de la administración Trump con la paz en Ucrania. En declaraciones al programa matinal diario de Euronews, Europe Today, Popșoi también elogió la resistencia de Ucrania a los esfuerzos de Rusia por paralizar la nación ucraniana.
We do have faith in the Trump administration's genuine will and genuine commitment to peace. It's just a matter of Kremlin not being particularly constructive, as we can see with the latest horrific attacks on Ukrainian energy infrastructure. And it is incredibly cynical of the Kremlin not being able to compete on the front line. They are choosing to attack soft targets, civilian targets, women and children and elderly, trying to cripple the Ukrainian nation.
También se refirió al objetivo de Moldavia de convertirse en miembro de la Unión Europea. El ministro de Asuntos Exteriores afirmó que Moldavia ha fijado la fecha de finalización de las negociaciones para 2028. Popșoi señaló que su país ha llevado a cabo importantes reformas para mantener su candidatura a la adhesión por buen camino.
Are AI chatbots censoring the truth about conflicts? The days of warfare confined to the battlefield are long gone, and today artificial intelligence plays an ever-growing role in the flow of information about global conflicts. AI researcher Ihor Samokotsky decided to look into whether chatbots can be trusted on the topic.
My interest was to see how AI systems, which are popular across the globe, answer different questions relevant to Ukrainian war and Russian war, and whether they lie or no, and if lie, how.
He asked Western, Russian, and Chinese AI chatbots 7 questions typically manipulated for Russian disinformation. For instance, whether Ukraine is run by Nazis and who started the war. The study found that Western AI models answered questions reliably on the whole and did not spread Russian propaganda. When it comes to Russia's AI Alice, created by Yandex, accuracy depends on the language questions are asked in.
For English-speaking people, Russian AI refuses to answer propaganda questions. But for Russian-speaking population, it answers with the precisely propaganda narratives.
We replicated this test by asking the same question as researchers, whether the Bucha massacre was staged. This fake narrative has been consistently spread by pro-Russian actors as well as by the state. The chatbots often refused to respond when asked in English and Ukrainian, but when we asked in Russian, it replied with propaganda, alleging that the massacre was staged. Researchers' findings were even more stark. When questioned, the chatbot admitted Russian responsibility for the Bucha massacre before overwriting this response and refusing to comment. China's AI model DeepSeek is also more likely to spread pro-Kremlin narratives if asked questions in Russian rather than in English.
¿Se protegen los europeos cuando navegan por Internet? En 2025, la mayoría de los usuarios de Internet en la Unión Europea optaron por no permitir que sus datos personales se utilizaran con fines publicitarios, mientras que el 56,2% restringió o denegó el acceso a su ubicación geográfica. También se hizo más habitual limitar el acceso a los perfiles de redes sociales o al almacenamiento compartido en línea, una medida que tomó el 46% de los usuarios de Internet. Esta cifra representa un aumento de 5 puntos porcentuales en comparación con 2023. Además, el 39% de las personas comprobó que el sitio web en el que proporcionaba datos personales era seguro y el 37,6% leyó las declaraciones de política de privacidad antes de compartir sus datos personales. La mayor proporción de usuarios de Internet que tomaron medidas para proteger sus datos se registró en Finlandia, seguida de los Países Bajos y Chequia. Por el contrario, las proporciones más bajas se registraron en Rumanía, Eslovenia y Bulgaria. Estas cifras se producen en un momento en que Europa intenta recuperar la soberanía digital frente a las grandes empresas tecnológicas estadounidenses. Amazon Web Services, Microsoft y Google controlan alrededor del 70% del mercado europeo de la nube. En su última iniciativa, Francia ha anunciado que va a sustituir las plataformas estadounidenses Microsoft Teams y Zoom por su propia plataforma de videoconferencia desarrollada a nivel nacional llamada Visio, que se utilizará en todos los departamentos gubernamentales a partir de 2027.